Hi, and welcome back to Film Study, an All American podcast. I'm Lexi, and I have my friend Naya on the show today, and we were discussing Liv's character journey. So Olivia Baker and her character journey, sort of over seasons 1 and 2. This conversation was good, so I'm excited for you guys to check it out. All right, so very excited to have Naya here. We met each other, I think, on Twitter. I think it was originally on Twitter. We were talking after episode 9, just about how down we were down bad. We were down
so bad.
Episode 8, because it was the cliffhanger, and then we had a whole month and a half.
Yes, it was emotional terrorism at its best. Yes,
terrorism to reflect on what Olivia Baker.
Oh gosh.
Love her.
Yeah.
Love her so much.
So much.
But sis,
it's stress. It's just stress watching her.
when she's your favorite character, she is my favorite. Is she your favorite character?
She is, but I've had this awakening, sort of like in the beginning. I was like an Olivia stan, and there's a lot of hardcore Olivia stans that I see now, and I'm not in that place anymore. Like,
really,
I want her to win. I want her to thrive. But I think there's a misconception that you can be a fan of a character and still call them out when they make some really bad choices.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm at now, where I can see things in a better perspective than I did when I was originally watching it, like in real time, like season 1. I was like, in that, when I was watching season 1, I was like, yeah, that's my girl. Like, I will stand her forever. She could do no wrong. But now I'm like, I'm in a better place.
You're like, you can do some wrong. You can do some wrong. That's so funny. So that's what we're going to talk about in this episode is Olivia Baker and her character development. But I think it's so funny that you said that, and specifically that we met on Twitter, because very much so, Twitter, I feel like Twitter is the place for Olivia Baker stans. Actually, most places are the places for Olivia Baker stans.
Yes.
A lot of people have love for Liv. We gotta call that out. And they're always just like, Olivia Baker defense squad. Like, how are we gonna defend her today? Okay.
Full force. And I see it most on I think you watch Erica Vane. Shout out to Erica Vane's videos, which are phenomenal.
We love Erica. We shout her out all the time on this pod.
We stan Erica. But yeah, they go in whenever Olivia's brought up, and it's like,
I will admit, I am one of those people that's just like, hold on, but we got to think about what she was thinking, right?
Right. And I respect that. I do.
Yeah. It's just, you also call her out, which
you have to. I mean, if you're gonna call out like the Ashers of the world and the Laylas of the world and the Vanessa, oh God, yes, then we have to just keep it equal, keep it fair.
Yes,
you can love a character and still be like, yeah, you're messing up big time.
Yes. So, yeah. Which she has messed up quite a bit in season 3, but
I'm sure we're gonna get all into that, Lord.
We're gonna give a little bit of a background on how she was in seasons 1, and sort of like, then we're gonna really get sort of into the meat of it in season 2. But season 1, I think I will be honest about this. I actually watched a couple episodes in because my mom was watching the show, and so I think the first episode that I saw was like that Mad City, and I'm finna be honest, Olivia and how she was acting and how she was so chill, that little scene that she had with Spencer when they were talking about him not necessarily being around her, I was like, who is this? Who are they? What is going on here? What is this dynamic?
That's when you started checking for Olivia.
That was, yes, because that was like the first episode that I saw. So it was just like, these characters as a whole are interesting, but specifically she is interesting. And then when I went back to go rewatch like the beginning of the season throughout the whole rest of season 1, I was just like, we are rooting for this girl, okay?
Right. And let me ask you a question. So did you start watching on Netflix season 1, or were you watching it live? Or
it was
your mom
Netflix.
Watching it live?
So it
Okay.
was Netflix. It was this is like the blackest story ever, right? She was getting her hair done and people
I love
braids,
it.
a whole 9 yards. I came in, they were just like, "Oh, we started watching this show." We just
Hmm.
like dove into it while my mom was getting her braids done and I was there to pick her
That's
up.
amazing. That's amazing. I
Literally
love
finished
that.
basically the majority of season 1 just watching her get
Okay.
her braids done.
That's great. I love that
That's
story.
we love that. Wait, so how did you start watching it? Who's the character you connected with the most?
Okay, so I remember seeing the trailer for the first season.
Okay.
And it's the only trailer that it has. It's like the big trailer. It's like I think 3 minutes long. And I
I've
remember
seen that
seeing it.
recently, yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on CW just like in passing. And I was like, okay, that it looks good. Like, and it gave me, if anyone listening or if you know the show One Tree Hill, it gave me One Tree Hill vibes.
Yes.
And so I was like, wow, it's been a minute since a show like this has come out. And, it looks good, but I kind of just didn't really think about it. Because I don't think I was even watching CW at that time, like
Mhm.
that. And
Yeah.
so that was all that I saw of it. And
Mhm.
so before I knew it, the first season had already aired on the CW, and
Mhm.
then it dropped on Netflix.
Netflix,
And I
yeah.
obviously, little did we know that it was on the verge of being canceled, and that was like the last ditch effort. Oh my
Which
God. Dark
wow.
times. Dark times.
I could
Um,
not imagine it being canceled only because specifically after episode 8, this show is just low key taking over my life. I mean, I created a whole podcast about it. So I'm just
okay.
like, what would I be doing with my life if it
Yeah.
wasn't on?
It has a hold on all of us at this point. So it's
Uh,
really hard to think about a time where it could have been gone.
stronghold. Okay.
Right. So yeah, so it dropped on Netflix, and I remember seeing it on Netflix, and I was like, "Oh, this is the show. I remember this show." And I was like, you know what? Let me just start watching it.
Hmm.
And I kid you not, I was like hooked.
Hmm.
Watched the first episode, and it literally took me like a week and a half or 2 weeks to finish it. And I was like, okay, where's the second season? And by that point, it had caught steam. Everybody else had started watching it on Netflix
Hmm.
as well, and it got renewed for a season two. And I was like, great.
Oh, so
And
you got
so
to watch
yeah,
season 2 like
I watched
as it
season
was
two
happening.
live. Yeah, which was
That's
really cool.
that's dope.
Hmm.
I so basically I probably came in like a couple of months after you did because I we had gotten to a point where we were watching it and then season 2 had already started. So basically we had
Oh,
to like we were so invested
rewatched.
that we brought like the first 4 something episodes so that we were caught up to like where the app was and then we saw like the last maybe 3 or 4 episodes of season 2 live.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. It's crazy how everyone like experienced it differently. Cause
Yes.
I actually like by the time I finished the first season on Netflix, I think I was probably done, and
Mhm.
it had already been renewed for season two. And I was like, oh my God,
I
great.
love
Cause
that
this
for you.
I
Yes.
would have been mad if it would have ended with season one and like, what? No.
Same. Same.
And I think your second question was, which character did I identify with most? I
Yeah.
mean, Olivia, definitely Olivia. I mean,
I
I
love
did.
it.
I mean, I was just like, I see you for who you
Yes.
are. I get it. And so,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I've said this a couple of times on here, but I just think Samantha Logan plays vulnerability so well, and it was the fact that this character of Olivia Baker in season 1 really like she didn't say a lot but you knew that she was like there for her family and there for her friends. She was there for Spencer even before they knew who each other were, like
Mhm.
sharing her laptop with him. And
Yeah.
you we obviously saw her like obviously want Spencer and long for him and not be able to get that because she was still sort of in her shell.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, it's so funny that you like started watching towards the end of season one. So like for me, I was able to watch it from the beginning, and like immediately when because I knew I think a lot of us maybe know Samantha Logan from other projects. So I was
Mhm.
like, oh my God, Samantha Logan. So I was seeing all these people when I started watching it. Oh, why was I tripping? Why didn't I watch this on live? But anyway, yeah. So I mean, from the first scene that she was in, and that happened to be the scene with Spencer, I was like, oh yeah, like this looks like it's gonna be really good. And she's a character that I feel like I don't know, I maybe she feels easy to identify with because, she was giving like she was a little bit of a wallflower, and you could
Mhm.
obviously tell that she was a lost soul trying to
Yeah.
figure out her place, and then we figure out obviously that she was in rehab prior, and then it's like it just started to unravel, like, okay, this girl has a lot of story, and it's interesting to see where this is going to go.
Yeah.
And Lord, it's been a ride. So, it hasn't been any short of that with Olivia's arc. And
Yes.
I still feel like we're peeling back layers to Olivia as a character. So yeah.
Definitely, and to get into her character, it is very interesting because again, like she was a wallflower. She was definitely a lost soul, but we saw like that heart of like this is a random example, but I'm thinking of the time that she like went to Layla and she was just like after they had their fight, but she was just like you don't have to apologize to me, like.
Oh
I
yes,
didn't want to walk
yes.
away from you, and so you really saw her just like caring for the people that's around her, and really that sort of vein just continued throughout the seasons, and you saw that she was there, for her brother, for Asher, right after he slut shamed her at
Oh
homecoming,
Lord.
which
Yes, child. Oh Lord.
woo,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Hmm.
drag Billy on this episode, but
Oh Lord. All
he
right, this is
deserves to be
not
dragged.
right. And let's not, this is not an episode or, podcast episode for Raggedy Ann. I call him Asher. Asher doesn't get no screen time, no airtime.
Not at all, not at
But I
all.
still have nightmares about that choice for her to be with Asher after all that. But
And
I
yes,
digress.
I'm chalking that up to the actor for Chris, not like filming something else. And I'm like, I really
Yes.
believe that the writers did not want to go this route, but they had to.
We have to believe that because I would have so much rather have seen her and Chris together
Yes,
than what we had
yes.
to endure with Ash Livia.
Because this is a little sidebar. Chris was
Right.
great for Olivia. He
Phenomenal.
was all like there for her, like he communicated well. He got her to communicate, right? Like when they had that little scene about him
Mhm.
being upset that she was helping Asher at the time with the like football day that they had where the recruiters were coming. And he was just like, yeah, I was just sad that you were not paying attention to me at all, and I needed you to be there. And she was just like, well, thank you for telling me. Like,
Right. And you know what's crazy about that is shout out to Erica Vane once again, because I'm
yeah.
telling you, she's really influenced sort of my different perspective on things,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to Olivia. And I feel like with the relationship with Chris, I feel like she ran from that into
Hmm.
Asher's arms because Chris, like Spencer, is someone who was going to hold her accountable and was someone
Really?
that she couldn't really hide from. And I think Olivia at that time, up until this point has been running from that accountability. And I think with
Mm.
Asher, she was able to hide into him and hide into all his issues because Lord, there's a ton of Asher issues.
Yes,
And it
there
was
are.
easy, yeah, it was easy for her to hide into that relationship where there's so many issues on his side that she didn't really have to address her own issues. And
That's a
so with Chris, it was kind of
that's a
like,
cool perspective to have. I have not thought about that. I've always I've chalked up both of her relationships, even though I love Chris. I've chalked it up to like her uh, not really being excited to be in really any of those relationships from the get
mm,
go, and I really viewed that as like her really valuing friendship because that's something that we know that she values, and so she was just like the only way really for me to keep these people around and have it not be awkward is to keep them as friends. It like
mm,
though, and also like partly to move on from Spencer with Chris specifically, but
yeah,
yeah, I really saw that as her just being like, I really value friendship, I don't want to lose these people in my life, but they very much want something
mm,
else, something more, and it's still connected back to her trying to hide and them wanting something else, something more, but I don't really feel like I can give that to them. But since they're begging, not begging for it, that sounds so horrible, but since they're like asking for it and I feel like they're going to leave, then I'm gonna like hop into a relationship with them.
Which, I think for me, I think I thought the same thing when
Mhm.
originally watching, but I think with the perspective that we've gotten specifically with season 3, I feel like Olivia in the past has, obviously she's done a lot of running, a lot of
Yeah.
ducking and dodging from hard things. And I feel like specifically with the relationship with Chris, I don't think there was ever an opportunity for it to really progress and blossom because I feel like Olivia was still hiding in a
Mhm.
lot of herself internally.
Yeah.
And um I think just the relationship with Asher, like, I'm not trying to discount the relationship with Asher, but I just feel like it was kind of an easy way out. Like, it was an easy relationship because she didn't really have to focus on herself, and she
No.
was doing a lot of saving him, a lot of trying to fix him and compensate for his, shortcomings. And,
And his
you know,
family.
right. And I I feel like with Olivia, that's kind of like the easy answer, the easy go-to to be like, oh, well, I just don't want to lose these people as friends and, da 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 da.
Mhm.
But I think Olivia has never really been able to love herself fully in
Mhm.
turn, then not give that love, that healthy love, back to other people. And so I think with Chris, that would have been in a relationship that would have forced her to awaken that,
It
like
really
she is
would've.
now with with everything with Spencer. Like Spencer and Chris are one and the same in that instance where they, don't have a problem with confrontation or, confronting truths. And I just don't think Olivia was ever in that place before to really hold herself accountable,
Oh, yeah.
to do that same thing. So I think Asher was an easy relationship because there you go. Asher don't hold himself accountable and
At
messes up
all.
left and right. So therefore she doesn't really have to do that in turn. So I think, with Chris, it was a relationship I would have loved to see, but I don't think Olivia, she's not in that place that she is now where you're starting to see she's taking accountability,
Mhm.
she's owning her own actions and starting to come into her own power. And you know it
Yeah.
sucks though, because Chris is awesome, but
And that's the do you think we would still like Liv would still be in the spot that she is now, whereas like season 3 is when we've gotten most of her character development? Do you think that that would have been true if Chris was like still, if the actor didn't have to leave and that Chris was still on the show and they still had that relationship going?
I don't know. It's kind of hard to think of what could have been
Yeah.
now that we're here. You know what I mean? I feel
Hmm.
like everything happened for a reason, and
Hmm.
I, I don't know. Yeah, like it's really hard for me to think what could have been because I feel like Chris and Olivia would have been amazing, but I don't know. I feel like, and this we're not maybe not trying to get into Endgame or anything like that. I don't know. I feel like it always probably would have come around to her and Spencer at some
Oh,
point.
for sure.
So I don't know. Like I think
Yeah.
everything just happens the way it's supposed to happen, and
Yeah.
you know,
I'm of
yeah.
the thought that if she was still with Chris, it would have, I feel like it would have presented an interesting storyline on screen, because in the same way that you're saying like her relationship with Asher was very easy for her, it,
Hmm.
I feel like we've seen that this season, right? He really like, even when she was ducking him hard, like he was trying to be the best little Asher he could be at the beginning of this season, and still she was ducking him, like, right, like not talking about Summer, doing her best to avoid him. And
Hmm.
just, I feel like, I don't know, Chris would have presented a different challenge, again, a harder challenge, even with what we've seen with this triangle, which is really like a square
Mm.
because of
Yes.
Asher and Layla. But yeah, I just think that dynamic between Spencer, Chris, and Olivia would have been an interesting one to see.
It would have been, yeah, actually, like taking out Asher, like that would have been actually really interesting to see, but
Because Asher is like trash. I mean, come
so
on. So it's like
inconsequential at
easy
this
to
point.
root for Spencer, right? But what if the audience really had to root for another guy who was just as
Right.
good?
Yes, yeah, that would have been amazing to see.
Yeah.
But we had to
But we had
take
to
a week
endure it.
again. I'm in this space now where I'm like, everything happened for a reason, and we needed to sort of see Asher and Olivia together, and
That's
now
so
it's
funny.
over, and we don't ever have to go down that road. Hopefully,
I think
ever,
that's I think
ever.
that ship is sunk.
sunk. And I'm actually really like, I there's still some like Ash Olivia believers out there, like I see on Twitter. They're scattered, but they're there. And I'm like, oh gosh, Spela has more of a chance than Ash Olivia at this
This
point.
is
So
true.
let it
This
go.
is true. I'm gonna dabble this controversial opinion, but I
Okay.
was talking about it with a couple people, and
Uh-oh.
I thought about this the other day. Really, Jen, she's like also in Erica Vane's community. She brought up this point, but
Mm,
it was really like I feel like because Olivia was with Asher, this is getting into Olivia a little bit, but feel like
okay.
because Olivia was with Asher and Asher was so bad that
Mm-hmm.
we lower the bar for Spencer in terms of, him like chasing and not really chasing, but really like pursuing Olivia and what we've seen this season.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, Chris would have presented something different, and I'm just sad.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. He would have. It would have been very interesting to see a Chris, Olivia, and Spencer love triangle for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But it just goes to everything happened the way it was supposed to
Everything
happen,
happened the
and
way it was supposed to happen. True, true,
yeah, and
true.
it's like we also like I don't know if we would have gotten the sort of because I think everything kind of affects something else. So I feel like
Yeah,
maybe
so the
we wouldn't have.
shooting.
Right, the shooting and then sort of like Spela and sort of
Mhm,
that kind of ending at
mhm.
towards the end of season when you see the friendship and yeah, like I don't know if all of these things would have happened. I don't know if certain things had
Yeah,
played out differently,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
for sure, for sure. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. So it's yeah, well, that all of those triangles, I'm sure, are going to come back up. Even though I feel like both Spela and Ashley B are pretty much sunk at this point. I
Yeah, I
still
don't know.
feel like it's gonna like they have to come to a resolution because there really hasn't been one yet.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like and Erica Vane, she this was like a many videos ago. I think specifically there's a video talking about, Layla and Spencer and like if, there's a chance for them to reconcile and what would that look like.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of in the place where I feel like Spencer and Layla, I just don't see it ever happening again. Like I feel like this
As
breakup
she
was for
shouldn't. As
good.
she shouldn't.
Yes, as she should. Okay. Okay.
Like, that's
Yes.
what yeah, exactly. Exactly. But like Ashley should not never get back with that boy. Like
Right.
this
But
boy, we talked about it last episode, but this boy was plotting for real. Like
yes. Oh my gosh. And you know what? Like, I love Spencer, but I think we all can agree what he did to Layla was trash. It was trash.
messed
We can't
up.
defend that, but
No.
he's human, and to have a protagonist that never screws up would be boring. And
Yeah.
this was really the first instance where we're like, Spencer, no, that we can't be a soldier for you. You really messed up in this capacity. We get it. You were heartbroken. You were feeling some type of way. You were feeling rejected, but you did not need to drag Layla into that mess.
Which again is really really interesting because now that you say that, I think that honestly, I feel like their character developments have been pretty much aligned throughout the story, and that's why I say I feel like the writers are trending that way. But we
Hmm.
saw that in the first season when they both had that flashback episode. Olivia, when she was high,
One of my
and
favorite episodes of
yes, love
season
that
one.
episode. And
Yes.
Spencer, right, with his anger issues. And really, I do feel like because again in season two, what we saw of Olivia was that she was, trying to put her family back together, right? Like went to Crenshaw to get Billy to stop drinking, like to get Billy to
Hmm.
come back home. To she stole his letter quitting football. She was just like, "You're not gonna do this. You're emotional."
Right.
And then throughout the rest of the season, we know that she was helping Asher quite a bit with his mom, again with his dad, with steroids, which
Oh gosh.
oh
Yes.
my word, this boy. But
Yeah.
we've seen her be a helper and still very much lost, like still very much figuring out who she is, still very much figuring out her identity throughout these couple of seasons. But this season is the first season we see her really screwing up in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like majorly this season for sure. Because I think she's had, and it's been interesting. Like I don't know if you were in the rewatch with Erica Vane and
Some I
recent
caught some
weeks,
of it. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
during the mid-season hiatus, and so we went back and rewatched season one, and
yeah.
that was like a whole new world. Rewatching the season was like watching it for the first time,
Yeah.
because there's certain things that I didn't pick up on, or now that I have more context and more understanding. Like Olivia, she did make, she was as we were saying, she was fumbling the bag in season one,
Yeah.
and definitely you could see that she's not
I'm gonna give
perfect.
that heat to Spencer as well. I just rewatched the scene.
Which one? Go ahead.
I didn't know there was a specific one. It was after, because I know it's like the rewatch when he's just like, what was the hot tub thing, and she shuts him down. I know that's becoming more of a, like, you're seeing that, and we're all seeing that in a different light given what's happened now, and him sort of making those initial moves to be like, where you at? But in that same, or the next episode or something, she comes to him. She apologizes. She was just like, yeah, sorry, I was acting weird, and he shut it down too.
It's true, but at that point, we talked about it. Like at that point, after the hot tub scene, and then if you remember that scene afterwards, like he had come back to the Baker house, and she had come down the stairs, and it was like
And
this
he,
weird vibe, and you could see that he wanted to talk about it, and she was like, in Olivia fashion, was like, it's not that big of a deal. And I
yeah,
think we said, like, in that moment, he completely closed that door when it came to Olivia, because beforehand he definitely was attracted. It wasn't like it was
yeah,
one-sided, but Olivia had, I mean, listen, the man was in her house. Like she had all the opportunity in the world.
it,
Layla did not stand a chance in the beginning. He was in her house. You know what I'm
okay.
saying?
Layla
Hey.
definitely stood a chance. He was
Well,
checking for
no.
Layla.
Of course, like
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course he stood,
But
because he
definitely
was
in the like context of them being together and like being in the same vicinity, living in the same house.
right. That's what I mean. Like, obviously he was checking for Layla as well, but I think in terms of like Olivia's opportunity, Olivia had opportunity just as much as
Yeah,
Layla did.
yeah.
So, and so in that scene that you're talking about, I think it was the episode where Layla gave him the tickets
Tickets,
or
yeah, to
something.
the college
Yeah.
game, yeah.
Yeah. And in that sense, like, she didn't really have an opportunity to really pursue something, because at that point he had shut that door.
Yeah.
And him and Layla were starting to get closer. So,
Mhm.
Layla
It
had her
was just
opportunities,
it was I
I mean,
definitely
not Layla, Olivia. Sorry. Olivia had her opportunity.
yes, yes. It was definitely, to me, it was just like a and I know a lot of Olivia fans are like, this is the way we wanted it. But it was just definitely like miscommunication and missed opportunities and different timing on both ends, right?
Right,
She thought
right.
that he was
Exactly.
her brother, and then when she found out he wasn't,
It was too late
that
at that
it
point,
was too
right?
late, right? He really sort of, I think, wanted to pursue something, right, and then right after it, right, they didn't even get a chance to kiss in the hot tub, and Jordan came and ruined it. So it was just like
Right.
other characters getting in the way, their own selves getting in the way. It was just not the time
Yeah,
for
it
it
was
to
just right. It
happen.
was wrong timing. It was like when he maybe was there, she wasn't there. And then when Olivia was there, at that point, he was so far gone into, Layla lands that,
Yes,
Olivia just missed her chance altogether. But,
exactly.
it goes back to everything happened the way that it
It was
should,
supposed to.
it
Yeah.
did, it was supposed to. And watching it in the beginning in real time, like for the first time, I was like with all the other Olivia fans, no, it should have happened like this and boop, boop, boop. And I feel like I've realized that when you sort of want things to happen the way you want them to happen, you sort of get tunnel vision, and
Hmm.
it makes it, I think, harder to watch the show and enjoy it for what it is. And
Yeah.
I think I've come to a place where I've just been able to enjoy the show more, because I'm just kind of like, you know what, I'm just gonna go with the flow, trust the writers. They stress me out,
Hmm.
but I just have to trust that the show is in good hands, because it is. I mean, the show it gets better with every season, and the
Yeah.
writers know what they're doing, the actors know what they're doing, and you kind of just have to trust that. And it just makes it more enjoyable to watch, just the journeys of all the characters, instead of like
Hmm.
trying to be like, I want it to happen this way and it should have happened this way. It's just like, everything happened the way that it was supposed to.
Yeah.
And you kind of just have to take that for what it is.
For
So
sure. For sure. thank you all for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this short, quick overview of Olivia Baker and her sort of character development and her looking at her relationships over seasons 1 and 2. I hope you tune in for the next episode where we get into her character development specifically for season 3. And as recently as we are sort of midway through season 3 with some of the stuff that's happened more recently, we talk about her relationship with Laura Baker as well. So that's an exciting conversation that's dropping soon as well, so stay tuned.